Well, since the sports world really isn't that interesting right now, I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm already doing the 24 stuff, which, again, I'll get to that soon, but let's do a movie review. I remember last summer, Cowboy TD did reviews of The Hulk, The Dark Knight, and Indiana Jones, and, I don't know if I can say it succeeded or not, but it was something to do, and I've done a couple of movie reviews, I think. Obviously, I'm doing the 24 reviews because that's a show I like, so let's just do Watchmen. I'll do Watchmen because it is somewhat accessible. I could sit here and do reviews of movies like Revolutionary Road or whatever, but that would turn this channel into more of a movie reviewing channel. I don't want to turn into that. At least, I don't think I see enough movies to become a full-on movie critic. So, let's do Watchmen because it's accessible, it's mainstream, and it's a superhero movie, and that's the age we're going through right now. We are going through an age of superhero movies, and I think it's almost done. I think we're getting really close to the point where people get sick of the superhero movies, and we enter another phase. So, in the 80s and 90s, you had the Superman movies, you had the Batman movies, you might have even had a couple others, but the superhero age really hit in, I believe, 2001 or 2002, when Spider-Man 1 came out, and it showed people that we are now technologically capable of telling these stories of extraordinary humans, or extraordinary people, or whatever. So, that opened the floodgates because Spider-Man made a lot of money. They geared it so it would be appropriate for all audiences, and it, obviously had two sequels, Spider-Man 2 and 3. The Batman franchise rebooted. Superman tried to do a sequel. It didn't work out great, but it made money. It was a fairly big deal. And then they went off to do things like the Hulk. They made two Hulk movies. Obviously, they just did Iron Man. They have even gone a little deeper there. And they did 300, which isn't a superhero, but it is a graphic novel, so it's somewhat close. I'll even throw Hellboy in there because not a lot of people know who Hellboy is. The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I believe is based off a graphic novel, that movie didn't do too well. V for Vendetta is another graphic novel, I believe. So, we're going further down the rabbit hole. And you have a lot of these superhero movies. Most of them get a lot of hype. They're a pretty big deal. And you have the graphic novel movies, for the most part not as big a deal, but they still get around. So, Watchmen kind of tries to be both. Watchmen is like, you have the obvious superheroes, you have a group of superheroes that are trying to vanquish evil, support good, so it's like that. But Watchmen was originally a graphic novel, and that's one thing. We all know who Spider-Man is. Everybody knows who Spider-Man is. You know who Batman is. You know who Superman is. You probably know who the Hulk is. But a lot of people didn't even know of the existence of Watchmen before they saw the trailer. The first trailer came out with The Dark Knight. And that's because, A, Watchmen was a graphic novel, not a comic book. And two, it was one take and done. The original graphic novel was, I believe, made up of 12 volumes. And once those 12 volumes were done, it was over. You could not expand on the universe anymore. There was nothing left to say. The original writers, Alan Moore and I think Peter Gibbons, but I know Alan Moore. I can't remember the name of the other guy. I think it's Peter Gibbons. They never tried to expand on it, and no one else ever tried to, because there was nothing more to say. They had a story to tell. They didn't want to tell the stories of the characters. They wanted to tell the story of the situation. And the situation was over. So, Watchmen is considered the greatest graphic novel ever written, but that doesn't mean everybody knows about it. In fact, a lot of people don't. But to the casual viewer, you saw this trailer, and you probably got excited and thought to yourself, alright, this movie looks cool. I don't know what it's about. You may have even thought it was a character and universe created by Hollywood, but it's not. A lot of people may have thought that, I guess. And as you saw more trailers and more commercials, you probably continued to think, hey, this looks cool. You know, some people may have went online and found out, oh, there was a graphic novel. You know, a lot of people probably already knew. Some people didn't know, and some people may still not know. So, you know, it doesn't really matter because the movie certainly looked aesthetically cool. The concepts look cool and all that. So, basically, if in case you still don't know, and it's reasonable that you don't, Watchmen is, I think it's like continuing, if the superhero genre is to continue to flourish over the next several years, I think Watchmen continues along the path that The Dark Knight set. You know, if we started with Spider-Man, which did everything it could to make things as all audience friendly as possible, that tried to make it accessible to everybody, you then had movies like, it progressed to Batman Begins and The Hulk and other movies like that that were just darker, that tried to take themselves more seriously. And now here we are, they tried to make a popcorn flick, because that's what superhero movies are. Even The Dark Knight, as much as they tried to make a serious popcorn flick, it was still a popcorn flick. This takes it further. I mean, this is almost not a popcorn flick, because the action scenes, as enjoyable and as thrilling as they are, there are too many things going on in this movie almost for it to become a popcorn flick. Opposed to a movie like 300, where you can just go, sit back, and you cannot expect 300 to be a good movie. The only thing you can say about 300 is either I enjoyed myself or I didn't enjoy myself. Anyway, because of this, and this is going to be a long couple of videos, but I want to break down some stuff about Watchmen because I'm guessing a lot of you don't know anything about it or know very little about it. Either way, I just want to talk about it. I have not read the graphic novel, but I know what happens in it. I know about all the characters and all that, so I'm able to say some things about it. I'm trying to get my hands on the graphic novel, but it's not that easy. Anyway, Watchmen takes place in an alternate universe. You know, I guess like most other superhero things, where things are just the same as they are now. It's just the presence of superheroes is all that change, and that has a butterfly effect on other things. So, sometime during the 30s, these guys decided to dress up in costumes and go out and fight crime. It was really that simple. Just a bunch of guys. Some of them were dressed up in questionable uniforms that might be considered childish or ridiculous. Others a little more practical. But the point is, they went out there and they don't have superpowers. They rely on their physical attributes, strength, speed, and their fighting IQ. And, you know, just basically being great fighters to get by. And it works. You know, they become superheroes in the mind of the public, even though they possess no superpowers. Anyway, this group retires, and then the second generation in like the 60s, 70s, I guess, called the Watchmen. The first generation was called the Minutemen. And that's basically where it takes off. We have these superheroes who are not really superheroes, with one exception, I'll talk about that in 1 second, who just go out and fight crime, and the public just considers them as superheroes, even though they're just ordinary human beings who dress up, are capable of superhuman things, or extraordinary human feats, but human feats all the same for the most part. The presence of superheroes has changed things. Watchmen takes place in, I believe, 1985. Among the changes, the most significant being regarding Richard Nixon. He is still in office in 1985. He had just been reelected to his 5th term. Two things. The presence of superheroes allowed America to win the Vietnam War in about a couple days. It was like, I think the Vietnam War lasted a week before America just completely gutted the Vietnamese alive. Vietnamese surrendered. Bye-bye. Second of all, Nixon used superheroes to cover up Watergate. And because he did such a good job, I guess, They repealed the amendment that says you can only be in office 2 terms, and Nixon was allowed to stay in office indefinitely.